determining who will be the buyer of the city portion of the Coliseum property. I am born and raised in Oakland, and my only desire and hope is that all groups are heard and have an opportunity to speak about what they are capable of doing and what they can do to improve. Only desire and hope is that East Oakland area. Since I've been young and playing baseball in the Bay Area, my only desire and my track record, by the way, is that of improving anything that I put my hands on, anything that I've touched. I have put my money, my time into the Bay Area with no ask of anything in return, just the opportunity to give back to the area that has given so much to me. I've lived in other places and I've always come back home to do whatever it is that I've needed to do within my community. And so my ask of the council is that we have that same opportunity, not just my group, but all groups that are involved in this process. Thank you for listening to me, and I hope that you all have a great day.
I believe that human safety.
Thank you. The next speaker is a phone number ending in 7507. One moment while we allow you to unmute. (7507), please press *6 to unmute yourself. And you can address the council. Phone number ending in 7507. Again, phone number ending in 7507. Okay, we will come back to that user. The next speaker in the queue is Aaron Eckhouse. Please unmute yourself, Aaron, and you can begin.
Hello, thank you. My name is Aaron Eckhouse. I live in the Longfellow neighborhood in District 1. Calling to ask you to reject ODOT's proposal for an unprotected and unsafe bike lane on Telegraph Avenue, and to move forward with a fully state-funded plan for a concrete protected bike lane. I'm another person calling in who doesn't have a car, so I depend on my bike to move around Oakland, especially last year when I was limited in my ability to take public transit. I use my bike to visit my friends, to visit Lake Merritt, to get takeout from restaurants around Oakland. And riding a bike around Oakland, it's very clear that unprotected bike lanes on high traffic streets are not safe. You just have to go a block over from Telegraph to MLK, and you can see how often the unprotected bike lanes there are blocked by cars. I would not bike on Telegraph through Temescal before the protected bike lane was built there, and now it's one of my favorite routes to get around the city. Removing the protected bike lane on Telegraph would be a major step backward for safe streets in Oakland. It would make the street less safe for all users, people in bikes, pedestrians, and people in cars. It would be a major step backward for sustainable mobility in Oakland, would undermine our climate goals as well as our ability to get future state grants because we'd be throwing money away from one. And I think ultimately it would be a major step backward for a vibrant Telegraph corridor. Safe streets are more pleasant streets. They're places where people are more likely to come spend time and spend money. And that has certainly been my experience on Telegraph and Temescal. And I think that making Telegraph and Kono a less safe place with buffered bike lanes would undermine business there. Also to say, it's honestly offensive to me that ODOT and members of Kono Bid are gaslighting us with the claim that buffered bike lanes will be safer for bicyclists. That's simply not true, and ODOT should know better. So please stand up for safe streets and maintain a protected bike lane on Telegraph. Thank you.
Thank you. Jonathan Bear is next. Please unmute yourself and you can begin.
Good afternoon, members of the City Council. My name is Jonathan Bear. I'm a Lake Merritt resident, and I'm a frequent shopper in the Kono district. And I'm urging you to continue with the concrete protected bike lanes on Telegraph Avenue. As a pedestrian and transit user, the bike lanes make me feel much safer in Kono, especially when I'm crossing the street. I want to address some of the business-related arguments about the protected bike lanes, but first I want to point you to the Sierra Club's letter in support of the protected lanes. Telegraph is one of only 2 surface streets that connect Berkeley to downtown Oakland, so it has regional importance. There is an assumption in the race and equity report that car access would improve by reducing bicycle safety, but that's not true. Cars have the Grove Shafter Freeway, and there's no promise of more street parking with buffered lanes. It's also concerning that AC Transit was ignored in what was supposed to be an equity-focused process. Bicyclists, pedestrians, and transit users are dependent on Telegraph, and their needs on the street should be prioritized over cars who have freeway access. First Friday is not negatively impacted by having a slightly narrower street. There's an annual street fair on College Avenue, which is very narrow. Additional concrete curbs give attendees places to sit. First Friday is not a car-oriented event, but it's making up a lot of sales for the district, which shows that Kono's best opportunity for growth is bicyclists, pedestrians, and transit users, not drivers. There's no evidence that protected bike lanes are hurting businesses. Business districts compete with one another, and things go up and down. Right now, the Temescal district is on the up, possibly at Kono's expense, and Temescal's had protected bike lanes installed. Cars are getting more and more expensive, more and more dangerous, and without concrete protection for our most vulnerable road users, people are put at risk. Drivers feeling uncomfortable with the protected bike lanes is actually a good thing for everyone's safety. Providing opportunities for vehicles to double park puts lives at risk and demands more law enforcement resources to keep people safe. Please accept the already secured grant money and continue with the concrete protected bike lanes on Telegraph Avenue. Thank you.
Thank you. A user by the name E Ortiz is next. Please unmute yourself and you can begin your comments.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Council President Fortunado Vaz and members of the City Council. I'm Elsa Ortiz, President of the AC Transit Board of Directors. On behalf of AC Transit, I will summarize the comment letter and board resolution sent to the Oakland City Council regarding this item. AC Transit supports the alternative for permanent parking protected bike lanes on Telegraph through the Kono District. While parking protected lanes will not improve transit performance, they allow buses and bikes to navigate the corridor with no conflicts, keeping safe both users of the road. AC Transit appreciates staff response to our initial comment letter and the recent coordination effort following the Public Works Committee review of this item. However, staff's recommendation still raises a number of concerns. One, for significant road proposals like this, AC Transit respectfully requests that the city include our staff in planning and review early in the process. OCDOT and AC Transit have worked together on issues affecting the city of Oakland and AC Transit throughout the years. So our involvement would have led to a more thorough and accurate analysis of the impact of different alternatives on transit, which leads me to my next comment. Parking protected bike lanes are safer for transit operations than buffered bike lanes. Buses and bikes are completely separated throughout the corridor segment, preventing any conflict. With buffered bike lanes, bikes will be forced into the lane of traffic when there are double parkers, thus creating potential conflict with buses and bikes. Buffered bike lanes create a more stressful environment for buses and bikes as they leapfrog each other along the corridor and bikes zigzag around boarding islands. Despite Oakland staff
I do apologize. Your 2 minutes has ended and we are moving to the next speaker who is Dave Campbell. Dave, please unmute yourself and you can begin.
This is Dave Campbell, Advocacy Director with Bike East Bay, calling in support of the safest option for Telegraph Avenue, protected bike lanes upgraded with curbs, the safest option for bicycling, walking, and for driving, and the best option for transit, as you just heard from Board President Ortiz. I also bike to work on Telegraph in the Kono. I also shop there. I'll put a plug in for Kingston 11, the Good Hop Auto Shop, Burrito Express, and yes, Coreana Plaza. Even though they hate protected bike lanes, I'm going to continue to shop there and get my yuca and my fresh fish. This project is about safety. OCDOT agrees, Konobit agrees. The businesses that we've spoken to agree that safety is the most important, and you've also heard from many callers today, feeling that protected bike lanes are safer. We've also heard from parents who bike with kids that they prefer protected bike lanes. We're not hearing from parents that bike with kids, they prefer buffered bike lanes. We've also heard concerns from businesses and residents about the changes happening in Oakland, the development, the displacement, the gentrification, businesses struggling to recover from the pandemic. And if buffer bike lanes could make these problems and challenges go away, I would support buffer bike lanes. I'd probably get some backlash from my members in the process of doing it, but I would. But neither painted bike lanes, buffer bike lanes, protected bike lanes are impactful enough to solve these huge problems. Buffer bike lanes will not bring back a lost parking garage. They're not going to add parking spaces back to the street. They're not going to increase transit frequency for people who no longer live in Oakland and want to come back and shop at their favorite local businesses. Buffer bike lanes are not going to slow down traffic and keep safe and alive the multi-ethnic, multicultural array of people who walk, bike, and take transit on this corridor and the adjacent busy streets as well every day. Buffered painted lanes will also require.
Thank you. Phone number ending in 9932 is next. Please press *6 and you can unmute yourself on the phone. *6 to unmute yourself. Phone number ending in 9932.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, please begin.
Hello, my name is Nino Parker. I am a homeless Black advocate, Lake Merritt, also executive director of the Green Team. First of all, I'd like to once again state that Oakland has a bad system of oil politics, which is Black people speaking on behalf of white people about Black issues, validating things that aren't good for Blacks. Secondly, Talia Rubin, when you send offers for food, we don't want peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. Spend some money and send some real food. There was 24 police vehicles on July 4th. I count two of them were the command. One was the command center vehicle. One was like a golf cart top vehicle. And then you had like 3 DPW workers out there with these big floodlights. You guys spent a lot of money for nothing. That street looked like like some kind of apocalypse on the 4th of July. Nobody was out. The businesses suffered and everything. It wasn't a good idea to have that much law enforcement out there when you had all that stuff going on in West Oakland and East Oakland. That was a waste of time and money. I'd like to say, when it comes to the courts here, where I'm at, the decision that has been made, and I call it a decision because in the word decision is dissed. And I was dissed when you had 6 white people make the decision of when I'm going to leave this tennis court. Let's just leave it at that. And then when you come, I will, as a Black man, do what Rosa Parks did. Just ignore you. I'm not going to move. Because you need to negotiate with me, not with white people. Look it up in a dictionary when you have 6 people of one race negotiating against a person of another race. There's the word for it. So let's pay attention and be fair about stuff. Derek Sue, you ain't going to be the mayor.
Thank you. Blair B is next. Please unmute and you can begin.
Hi, Blair B here, Blair Beekman.
07 is next. Please unmute by pressing star 6. 07 is next. Please unmute by pressing star 6. Phone number ending in 7507. You are next. Please unmute yourself by pressing star 6. Phone number ending in 7507. Okay, we will move to the next speaker then, who is Greg. Please unmute yourself and you can begin your comments.
Hello, my name is Greg. I'm speaking in support of the protected bike lanes on Telegraph and Kono. I've lived in Longfellow for the last few years. My partner and I have both exchanged our cars for bikes in that time. We've ridden hundreds, if not thousands of miles a year on Oakland streets. And the Telegraph Kono corridor is really a keystone of our access to the rest of Oakland. Uptown Lake Merritt, and these facilities provide us access to places like Kingston 11, Great Western Power Company, Mud Lab, Lawful Boys, New Parkway Theater, the list goes on. And if Oakland looks to opts to rip out our primary access route, we'll be forced to find alternatives. We'll go to Berkeley, we'll go to Emeryville. Like Piedmont Avenue and Broadway, and Todd Mescal until recently, the Kono corridor without protected infrastructure is going to be one of those places we just don't go anymore. There's places on Broadway I would like to go, but it's not worth the risk of the speed of traffic, the danger, the harassment, and potential for death and mutilation. And I'd really like to stress the protected bike lanes are not for avid and capital C cyclists who want to blast down Broadway at 30 miles an hour or rip a left turn across 2 lanes of traffic. They're for the majority of people who are too afraid to ride on the streets that we have today. They want to roll down the street at 10 miles an hour on daily errands, and they're right with fear of being inched from cars. And they're for the kids on skateboards, the teens on fat tire bikes, and the lady on the tricycle. Paint-only bike lanes are exclusive infrastructure for capital C cyclists, and ripping out protected bike lanes for buffered bike lanes is going to be a major step in killing the dream of more people being able to enjoy active transportation in Oakland. I'd urge the council to fix and improve the protected bike lanes, not rip them out in the pursuit of safer streets in Oakland. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Victoria Fierce is next. Please unmute yourself and you may begin.
Hello, my name is Victoria Fierce and I'm a local resident. I live here at 601 William Street. I just moved across town from last year. And I have a question. Hey, OakDOT, are you okay? Are you being held hostage? Because this is the kind of document that somebody would write if it was written with a gun held to your head. And we're a little worried about you, given your long history of supporting bike lanes. Many of the concerns being raised here on this call today are about how dangerous it is to mix bikes and cars, and I completely agree. So let's get rid of the cars. They're the ones who are actually killing people. If you get hit by a bike, you'll get bruised, maybe you'll hit the asphalt, but if you get hit by a car, then you are dead. And the city already acknowledges that buffered bike lanes are more dangerous. It's in the city's report. If the city decides to make the street more dangerous, then what's the city's plan to pay for the injury and wrongful death lawsuits that are inevitably going to be coming your way? Look, if a business closes on Telegraph because of bike lanes, allegedly, it can reopen. The city can give them money. If a person is hit by a driver and dies, that's it. They're not coming back. You can't reopen a person after they've been murdered by a vehicle on Telegraph. I would ask the rest of the city council here to ask Councilmember Kaplan about the angry emails that I've sent her personally after the many times I've been hit on streets of Oakland on my bike in the last year. My wrist doesn't work anymore in the right way after being nailed by a postal truck on 20th Street. It's a disgrace. Please put in the protected bike lanes. They save lives. It's more important that people live than we have businesses. Like, seriously, people are dying. This is a life and thing, and it's deeply personal to me. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian.
Madam Clerk, I would just like to interrupt here for a minute, recognizing that there are a number of items on our agenda that are of large public interest. I do want to allow those who raised their hands late 1 minute to speak. And so there are about 17 people who I would like to hear from, and they'll have 1 minute since they raised their hands after the queue was closed. And the last 2 speakers will be Mike Wilson and Ray Bobbitt.
The next speaker is Brian Culbertson. Please unmute yourself.
Hi, council members. My name is Brian Culbertson. I live in District 3, and I'm speaking in opposition to item 13 and in support of protected bike lanes. Last week, I walked Telegraph to talk to the workers who are there every day. Their lives will be impacted if the protected bikeway is removed. I learned they were not contacted or consulted about the change of plans to their street. I spoke to Jay Rana, the director of operations at the new Moxie Hotel, as well as staff at the front desk. Jay told me OakDOT has not contacted them. Moxie has staff who bike and walk and take transit to work, and they rent bikes to guests. Jay told me he wanted a protected bikeway for the safety of staff and guests. I spoke to Aurelia Alvarado, one of the managers at Shake Shack. She told me that she did not know about this vote today. Aurelia wants a protected bikeway for the safety of staff and customers. I spoke to Jeff Galvez, the manager of Little Giant. He told me he wanted the protected bikeway so people feel safe when they travel to his ice cream shop. He was concerned removing the protected bikeway would hurt the Asian American bike club that frequently bikes by. I spoke to workers at Cholo. They told me they use Telegraph to get to work and want to keep the protected bikeway. I spoke to bartenders at the new Kontiki room. They told me they bike to work and store their bikes in the back room. They want to keep the protected bikeway since it's how they get to work. It is a systemic problem that a safe Telegraph street with a concrete protected bikeway is not finished yet. Oakland has had the funding for years to help the workers, travelers, and residents of Kono. I urge you to 1, please install the concrete curb for the protected bikeway without any further delays. 2, please talk with people who live, work, walk, roll, and take transit in our city, instead of just echoing a couple owners with loud voices. And 3, please support Kono businesses in their efforts to build community and attract customers, but do so without bringing them more cops and punitive fines. Thank you.
Thank you. Jared Sanchez is next.
Hi, I'm Jared Sanchez, Senior Policy Advocate with the California Bicycle Coalition, also known as CalBike. I'm speaking in opposition to Agenda Item S13, improvements to Telegraph Avenue. Although CalBike is a statewide bike advocacy organization, we are headquartered in Oakland and most staff are Oakland residents, including myself in District 5. All of us take great pride in Telegraph Avenue's protected bike lanes and want to see them stay to ensure our city and state are implementing the safest resources for some of our most vulnerable road users. One of CalBike's main priorities is to ensure the state's active transportation program funds safe, accessible, and low-stress bike routes throughout California. Since the Telegraph project receives funds from the state source, we want to express concerns that the ATP and its funding authority of the California Transportation Commission takes very seriously the type of bike facility and only wants to fund those facilities that are appropriate for the project location. We think you can look at the FHWA Bikeway Selection Guide to see that the protected bike lanes are preferred on streets with this volume and speed of traffic. Additionally, we at CalBike take very seriously the integrity of the ATP, and we're concerned when that process may be threatened by local authorities who receive funding for a project, but may be downgraded after funding is approved. This project may appear to be in a category of projects that make people question the integrity of the ATP. We hope this project doesn't limit the state's authority and processes. We are concerned that the changes may reflect that. Lastly, we're also very concerned about the equity impact for the supposed curb management strategies, as many have already stated, and are concerned they don't have documented community support. We ask that you deeply consider all of these concerns. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. User 1+ is next.
Yes, this is about the agenda item number 12. Why is this even up for possible action? The ASCG has capital partners, the hometown people, community engagement, and also are going to adhere to the Coliseum Pacific Plan from 2015. All I've been hearing of the complaints have been really from Dave Stewart's people. Dave Stewart got suspiciously late entry into this saga. Dave's already deemed the Coliseum not viable. He wants to build a stadium there. Talk about not reading the room. I mean, I'm serious though. He also stated to Scott Osler in the paper that he's rejected working with the AASCG because the visions don't align. But evidently, you don't have much of a vision if the A's already told you that it's not viable and you're still pushing it. It leads credence to the notion that he's stooging for the A's. Let's look at Renaissance Company with Floyd Kephart out of Southern California, not engaged in the community. Trip Development, another white developer, not engaged in the community. And the Oakland A's, the aforementioned Oakland A's, have not even submitted a formal proposal yet. They don't have the decency to even do that. That's how disrespectful they have been over the last few months and in this entire saga. This resolution, I oppose it. Do not do it. And let's move on to the 20th and get the AESCG the land that they deserve in the community where people look just like them. You talk about all this fair equity and all this racial equity, especially from the mayor, the worst mayor in the history of Oakland, and yet people are opposing Black men and women getting that land and owning, controlling it. Please give me a break. Do the right thing, people.
Ben is next. Please unmute yourself and you can begin.
Hi, my name is Ben Norquist. I'm been a resident of D3 for the last 5 years, living in Uptown, Adams Point, Lake Merritt area throughout that time. The entire time I've been used Telegraph multiple times weekly via bike and walking to go to restaurants, grocery stores, bars, etc. And ever since the temporary protected bike lane project has been installed, I've felt much safer both walking and biking on the street as the vehicle speed has clearly slowed down and it's been feels just much calmer in general. As everyone knows who actually is in Oakland, streets with buffered lanes are pretty much always blocked by cars. You can go down Grand Avenue and see the sections are constantly blocked by motorists, and if you're biking, you have to swerve into the vehicle travel lane and try to avoid any other traffic to get around them. There's obviously some issues with the temporary infrastructure, but we already have $4.5 million from the state to upgrade it to a permanent concrete curb that will prevent vehicles from parking in the bike lane. So it'll be much nicer, and it'll be similar to what we have on Lake Merritt or up in Temescal. Additionally, less experienced cyclists, for example, my girlfriend doesn't feel comfortable riding in mixed traffic in buffered lanes, and giving them a place that's protected and separated from vehicles can encourage people to use their bikes much more and access businesses, et cetera, on Telegraph. So reverting to buffered lanes will reduce safety, increase driving and emissions, and throw away money that we already have from the state to improve the area. The only people who are going to benefit from this backwards plan is people who want to drive 40 or 50 miles an hour down Telegraph and park in the bike lane so that they can run in and get their takeout or get their delivery for a DoorDash. Thanks, and please do not support the agenda item 13. Thank you.
The next speaker in the queue is Zach Kaplan.
Hello, my name is Zach Kaplan, and I've been using bicycles as my primary transportation for 30 years. I've regularly been cycling on Telegraph Ave for 21 years for both transportation and shopping, generally several times per week. And I've never had an issue riding Telegraph Ave until the separated cycleway went in. Due to the poor sightlines it has created, I've had several near-miss incidents with motorists turning right into driveways or narrow cross streets, which required me to slam on my brakes to avoid colliding with them. I find the protected cycleway is also too narrow to safely pass other cyclists and tends to collect debris. It also prevents me from making a left turn to get into a business across the street due to a wall of parked vehicles to my left. As a result of these issues, I now legally use the traffic lane when I'm riding on Telegraph Ave, which slows down motorists behind me and can upset them, resulting in honking or yelling at me from time to time. Thus, I request the City Council vote to remove the protected cycleway and replace it with a buffer bike lane. Thank you.
And as directed by the council president, the last speakers in the queue will each receive a minute to address the council. I will call the names: James Castle, phone number ending in 9271, Leo Bazile, a phone number ending in 7583, Mitchell Richmond, Travis Close, East Bay Commuter, Paul Bickmore, Tommaso Bogia, a phone number ending in 7011, David Long, Deborah Liat, Mike Wilson, and Ray Bobbitt. James Castle, you are up next. Please unmute yourself and you can address the council. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Jay Castle, and I live up in Bushrod district of Oakland. I actually primarily use this corridor when I drive, and I would urge the council to reject OCDOT's proposal to convert it to a buffered bike lane. The parking protected bike lane, the best thing I love about it as a driver is that it actually slows me down and slows other traffic down, which makes it safer for the entire all users of the corridor. The other thing I'd like to say is that the notion that the enhanced enforcement will work is kind of ridiculous. Almost once a week, I see a member of OPD go right by a car parked in a bike lane somewhere in Oakland, and they never stop and do anything about it. So I would just urge the council to support the parking protected bike lane and fully implement it using concrete. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. The next speaker is is a phone number with the last four digits of 9271. Phone number 9271, you've been allowed to speak. Please unmute yourself and start your comments.
Hello. My name is Karia Shabazz. I am speaking on behalf of item 12 on behalf of the AASEG. And I represent a community organization called Higher Ground. And I also represent a group of 15 other community members called East Oakland Neighborhood Initiative that covers the Coliseum, Highland area, Melrose, Brookfield Village, Verde Park, and Stonehurst. And we are in full agreement that AASEG should be able to purchase the land within the Coliseum. We are here to support them and to provide the community with equity and equitable resources for them. And that includes housing, that includes food, that includes youth services, that includes workforce development. So we are part of East Oakland Neighborhood Initiatives that makes up about 20 other East Oakland organizations are in full support of AASEG.
Thank you for your comments. The next speaker is Leo Bazile. Leo, you've been allowed to speak. Please unmute yourself and start your comments.
Yes, thank you very much for the opportunity to speak. I'm speaking on item 12 as the long-term resident of East Oakland and as a former council member from District 7. I really would like to know more about the proposals that are being suggested and would recommend that the staff recommendation be accepted right now so that we can bring these 5 proposals, I understand them, and lay them side by side so that people like myself that are long-term concerned about what is going on in the Coliseum area would have an opportunity to lay them side by side and evaluate them. And therefore, I'd like to recommend to the staff, the last time that I was involved with 5 proposals was involving Franco Galva Plaza. And I would recommend to the staff that they look at how we resolve that issue of those 5 different proposals to try to come up with the max. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, Leo. The next speaker is a phone number with the last 4 digits of 7583. 7583, you've been allowed to speak. Please unmute yourself and start your comments.
Good afternoon. Gladys Green, chairperson for District 7. I'm speaking. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. Go ahead. I believe you just muted yourself. Press *6 and then begin your comments.
Good afternoon. My name is Gladys Green. I'm speaking in behalf of Ray Bobbin and Robert Bob's application for the Coliseum complex, which I've been in the state of California of Oakland since 1946. I moved to East Oakland in the 7th District in 1959, before the Coliseum was built. Ray Bobbin, Robert Bobbitt have a very, very good application for housing, jobs, and for the youth. When my boys were young, I used to pick up the boys from all Catholic school, public schools and all, take them to the Coliseum for the TOC. We don't have anything like that out there now. So I'm asking for the city of Oakland, my council person, Trevor Reeves, and Mr. Larry Taylor.
Thank you, ma'am, for your comments. The next speaker is Mitchell Richmond. Mitchell, you've been allowed to address the council. Please unmute yourself and start your comments.
Thank you. My name is Mitch Richmond. I live in Berkeley, but I've worked in Oakland for the last decade, biking to work down Telegraph Avenue. And I'm speaking in favor of protected bike lanes. We need to keep moving forward with this. I routinely encounter double parked cars in the bike lane down Telegraph and have had to veer unsafely into traffic. I've encountered vehicles, and we can't count on the police to enforce this. They're overstretched. I've even encountered police double parked in the bike lanes. So please, let's move forward, not backward, and get the protected bike lanes in with the concrete barriers so people don't double park there. Thank you.
Thank you. Travis Close is next. Please unmute yourself.
Hello, thank you for the opportunity to speak. I bike on Telegraph often and regularly patronize Kono businesses. I am calling to support concrete protected bike lanes on Telegraph, which is a safe and simple solution. Many studies have shown that protected bike lanes are good for business, attracting more customers like me and increasing revenues. Safety on Telegraph in Kono has improved since protections were added in 2016. If bike lane protections are removed, double parking will ensue, causing bikes to swerve dangerously into the left lane and being placed in the path of oncoming vehicles. Nor is it likely that curb management strategies can work when Oakland hasn't been able to prevent illegal parking elsewhere. OCDOT has acknowledged that it will need to issue more parking tickets, which is not equitable for our lowest income neighbors. More police is not the answer. A concrete barrier will protect at all times of the day. No police or enforcement needed. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is East Bay Commuter. Please unmute and you can begin.
Hi, East Bay Commuter here, and I'm speaking in favor of protected bike lanes. As I do not own a vehicle, I have been commuting along the Telegraph and other non-protected bike lanes to get to work since 2015. I appreciate the protected bike lanes for their security to riders, pedestrians, and keeping drivers aware of their surroundings. OPD are parking in the bike lanes. I agree, they need to cut it. In 2018, I was actually hit by a car on my way biking north on Broadway, where there was not a protected bike lane for me to ride in. I believe this would have been completely avoidable with protected bike lanes. We should be adding more protected bike lanes to the city of Oakland, which is experiencing more and more cyclists since the pandemic. How can it be less safe with protected bike lanes? How, Sway? That's illogical. Supposed cyclists who are against protected bike lanes are not for the people. However, Dave Campbell, you seem like a chill dude. Keep doing you. If you're a real one, pull up the ABC Ride Out Wednesdays. Shout out Chaw one time. Go stream Joe Renner and Cecil music on Spotify and Apple.
I'm sorry, your minute has ended and the next speaker in the queue is Paul Bickmore.
Hi, my name is Paul Bickmore. I don't have a car. I get around primarily by bike and by bus. Speaking in favor of protected bike lanes. I know I'm often on Broadway where it's just buffered, and you know, it's every single day there is a car that is parked in the bike lane, and I have to go into traffic. I have to, you know, signal, try and make sure I'm not going to get killed, and go around the car just because someone isn't going to park legally. I've noticed that I don't have to do that on Telegraph up north of 40th Street, where you have all these protected bike lanes, and you know that, which is right by where I live, and it's great.
Thank you. Tommaso Baggia is up next. Please unmute and you can begin.
Hi, thank you, council, and thank you, staff. I'm an Oakland resident, been an Oakland resident for 15 years. I'm calling in support of protected lanes, but mostly in support of anything that reduces carbon emissions. And I'm extremely concerned that we need to be here calling in support of something that is demonstrated everywhere to reduce carbon emissions. This should be a priority for our city. We are 4 days away from a massive heat wave that's going to break records in California. We're a year away from waking up to the orange sky, and we're here concerned about people's right to park directly in front of the place they need to go to shop. And this is frankly appalling. The council needs to come up with a better system to prioritize things that reduce carbon emissions in the city and make it easier for people to change their lifestyle to reduce their carbon footprint. That means making it harder to park and making it easier for people to ride bikes and take transit and walk. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. The phone number ending in 7011 is next. Please press *6 and you can begin. Phone number ending in 7011. It is your turn. Please unmute yourself.
Yes, this is Jennifer Anderson, and I'm a bike commuter in Oakland. I frequently will choose Telegraph because it is a protected route. So I'm speaking in favor of maintaining protected bike lanes on Telegraph. It's true that a buffered bike lane is better than a sharrow, but I've been hit by parked cars pulling out of parking spaces without signaling or looking. And it's the risk of being doored as you go down a buffered bike lane is a major hazard. We need to be looking at the environmental impact of encouraging active transportation in the city, and taking away a protected bike lane at this time is really regressive. We need to be promoting safer cycling in our city for health, for transit, and for energy purposes.
Thank you for your comments. David Long is next. Please unmute yourself and you can begin your comments.
Hi, thank you, council members. I am a resident of District 1 calling in to urge you to reject ODOT's proposal to continue the current plan to use state funds to construct a concrete protected bike lane along Telegraph Avenue. I feel safer biking along a protected bike lane separated from vehicle traffic. And I'm also worried, as several callers before me, about what kinds of innovative curb management strategies might be employed to keep cars out of an unprotected bike lane. The presumption here is that this mostly means enforcement and ticketing. I don't think that's the direction that we'd like to be going in Oakland. I urge you to vote for a project design which is self-enforcing. That is the fully separated alternative, and not rely on OPD and police to enforce our bike lanes. Thank you much.
Thank you. Deborah is up next. Please unmute yourself and you can begin your comments. Deborah?
Yes, my name is Deborah Edgerly. I wanted to comment on the bike lanes. I find the bike lanes on Telegraph to be more of a hazard. I've absolutely stopped supporting the businesses that I used to support there because of the bike lanes. I think the city has to consider not only bicyclists, I want them to be safe, but also people who can't bike or don't bike, the elderly, the disabled, and the businesses there that I believe really have been impacted by the current bike lanes. Thank you.
The next speaker, thank you for your comments. The next speaker is Lizad Zovid. I'm sorry if I said that wrong, Zovidivker. You've been allowed to speak. Please unmute yourself and start your comment.
Good afternoon, City Council. I'm Liat Zavidivker. I live in District 3, and I frequently go to the Telegraph Kono District via 27th Street, which also has a protected bike facility. Protected bike facilities have changed my life. For instance, I never used to take a bike to Berkeley. I would either take the bus or the car. And one weekend, I ended up taking Telegraph like 2 times. I took the protected bike lane there and I took it back. And a week ago, I spoke to the owner of Braids for Betty, Braids by Betty on Telegraph, and she asked me what is best for the city. And I told her that the concrete protected bike infrastructure was the best, and she agreed with me. Another owner, the Glass and Gift Shop, said that the protected bike lanes are beautiful. So when you do speak to businesses, it's not a holistic outreach program. I encourage you to ask and dig deeper.
Thank you for your comments. The next speaker is Mike Wilson. Mike, you've been allowed to speak. Please unmute yourself and start your comment.
Thank you very much. My name is Mike Wilson. I work for the Kilno Community Benefit District and for Oakland First Fridays. And I want to personally state my support for ODOT's recommendation for buffered lanes. Working in the district, I have a lot of reasons for it, but for me personally, it boils down to the line of sight issue for turning cars. Not counting driveways, we have 11 unsignaled crossings between 20th and 29th. Cars don't have to stop when turning and they can't see bike lane traffic. And we've seen accident data that raises concerns about whether these are the safest.
Street toward 28th Street.
The only way to really eliminate the line of sight hazard would be to eliminate all street parking and all turns from Telegraph. If that's the end game here, that's what we need to be discussing, because the sales tax revenues have dropped 25% for our businesses already. I'd be open to having my mind changed on this. I really would, because I believe in safety, but the due diligence hasn't been done. I don't think council can make an informed decision today, and maybe this needs to be kicked back to ODOT so that they can make a data-driven case.
Thank you for your comments. And our final speaker is Ray Bobbitt. Ray, you've been allowed to speak. Please unmute yourself and start your comment.
I just want to thank the City Council for allowing me to speak. My name is Ray Bobbitt of the AASEG. Very grateful to be here. I wanted to just let you know that on October 29th, 2020, the City Council gave direction to the city staff to begin negotiations with 4 groups at the time, including the Oakland Athletics. At that time, the AASEG was also allowed to do so. Since that moment, we have done nothing but work as hard as we possibly can to do everything we can to make sure we were absolutely clear and inclusive with respect to our community, and making sure that we designed a vision that included our community's interest. We've met with over 34 organizations. We've met with labor. We've met with all levels of community. And what we are interested in doing is revitalizing East Oakland. We're very, very grateful for this process. We believe that we will, on July 20th, we're very excited and poised to move this process forward. Oakland needs to be together, and that's where we need to be.
Thank you for your comments, Mr. Bobbitt. Madam President, that was the last speaker.
Thank you very much to all of our public speakers and to members of the public who have joined our council meeting. We appreciate your comments, and if you would like to make comments or didn't get a chance to, you also have the opportunity during open forum, as well as the hearing if you wish to speak directly on that item. We are now going to move to our non-consent calendar. Madam Clerk, you may go ahead and read that in.
The consent calendar?
Starting with item 2, which I believe is the consent calendar. Item 2.1, a resolution renewing and continuing the City Council's declaration of a local emergency due to the existence of a critical public health crisis with regard to HIV and AIDS. Item 2.2, a resolution renewing the City Council's declaration of a local public health emergency with respect to safe, affordable access to medical cannabis in the City of Oakland. Item 2.3, a resolution renewing and continuing the City Council's declaration of a local emergency due to the existence of homelessness. Item 2.4, a resolution authorizing and directing the city attorney to compromise and settle the case of KP, a minor by and through her guardian, Jordan Murray and Kenesha Jackson Cato versus the City of Oakland, Cola Thomas, Alameda County Superior Court case RG 200569665. City Attorney's file number 33615 in the amount of $280,000.00. Item 2.5, a resolution accepting and appropriating a grant from CalSTART in the amount of $1 million for the Oakland Electric Bike Library, awarding a professional service agreement to Grid Alternatives Bay Area to implement and manage the Oakland Electric Bike Library in an amount not to exceed $920,000, waiving advertising, bidding, and the request for proposals, and adopting appropriate California Environmental Quality Act findings. Item 2.6, a resolution authorizing the city administrator to enter into a master funding agreement for fiscal year 2020 through 21 through fiscal year 2030 through 31 between the Metropolitan Transportation Commission and the Oakland Development of Transportation, approving Supplement 1 to the Master Funding Agreement, which will appropriate funds in an amount not to exceed $200,000 to add additional bike lane and other works to MTC's project scope for ODOT's West Grand repaving project, and adopting appropriate California Environmental Quality Act findings. Item 2.7, an ordinance amending ordinance number 13599, which adopted the fiscal year 2020 through 21 master fee schedule as amended to establish, modify, and delete fees and penalties assessed by offices, departments, bureaus, and agencies of the city of Oakland. Item 2.8, an ordinance amending chapter 2.29 of the Oakland Municipal Code entitled City Agencies, Departments, and Offices to establish the Department of Animal Services as a standalone department. Item 2.9, an ordinance amending the salary schedule of ordinance number 12187 to provide a 3% wage increase to the salaries of employees in representation units SB1, SC1, SD1, S11, TA1, TF1, TM2, TW1, UHI, UMI, UM2, TM1, U41, IE1, TV1, U31, CON, U51, UG1, TL1, UK1, UK2, UP1, US1, CON, U51, UG1, TL1, UK1, UK2, UPI, and USI effective the first full pay period of July 2021 to provide a 2.5 wage increase to the salaries of unrepresented chief of fire, deputy chief of fire, and assistant chief of fire department representation units UR1 and UU1 effective the first full pay period of January 2021. To provide a 3% wage increase to the salaries of unrepresented chief of police and chief of police assistants representation unit UN1 effective the first full pay period of July 2021. Provide a 1% wage increase to the salaries of certain unrepresented employees in the units CON, U51, UG1, TL1, UK1, UK2, UPI, and US1 effective the first full pay period of January 2021. Item 2.10, an ordinance adding chapter 9.65 to the Oakland Municipal Code, establishing rules for the Oakland Police Department's acquisition, use of military and militaristic equipment. Item 2.11 regarding OPD narcotics task force, the MOU has been moved to the non-consent calendar. Item 2.12 regarding OPD Alameda County Auto Theft Task Force, the MOU has also been moved to the non-consent portion of this agenda. Item 2.13 regarding Proposition 64 Public Health and Safety Grant has also been moved to the non-consent calendar, as well as item 2.14 regarding bid ballots, Chinatown and Fruitvale resolution has also been moved to non-consent. And item 2.15, a resolution confirming the reappointment of Barbara Leslie to the Board of Commissioners. And that concludes your consent calendar.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Before I call on my colleagues from the council for any comments, I did want to note that item S2.15, the Port Commission reappointment of Barbara Leslie, we did move this at last week's Rules Committee to this particular meeting with an urgency finding because her term expires this month. So I will entertain a motion later on with that urgency finding so that we can potentially move forward. Colleagues, are there comments or questions on the consent calendar? Councilmember Gallo.
Yes, I make a motion to approve the consent calendar. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Gallo. And that's with the urgency finding for the Port Commission reappointment of Barbara Leslie?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. And I'll second. Okay. We can have Councilmember Reed as the official second. Vice Mayor Kaplan.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. I just wanted to ask to the mayor or the mayor's representative, my understanding is that there are 2 port commissioners whose terms are expiring now, but I only see one of them on this agenda. And so I wanted to ask if they could speak to that.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I believe that Eleanor Buchan is on the line, and Ms. Buchan, if you are, please raise your hand and we can call on you to speak to that question. My understanding from hearing from her at our Rules Committee last week is that the other Port Commissioner, Michael Colbruno, is also terming out this month, and the mayor does intend to schedule him to our July 20th meeting for reappointment, and I will take urgent scheduling motions at the end of this meeting. Council members, other comments? Okay, I do see Ms. Buchan. I will go ahead and ask her to speak. Go ahead, Ms. Buchan.
Thank you, Council President. And I just wanted to echo your comments that the mayor's office does plan to bring forward a scheduling request, and we'll do so later on today for this appointment.
Thank you, and that is for reappointing Michael Colbruno, is that right?
That's correct, thanks.
Thank you. We had a little trouble hearing you, but thank you for confirming. Colleagues, any further comments? Councilmember Fife?
Yes, Madam Chair, on item 2.8, the proposed budget resolution for establishing a Department of Animal Services. That's on consent. I abstained the first time, not because I don't think that this is needed, but because I wanted to see more information about the impacts of creating a new standalone department at that time. So I wanted to approve the consent calendar, sans item 2.8, adopting this change to the charter to have this department.
Thank you, and we will also note that when we take the vote. I do see Administrator Riskin, you had your hand up, and I did ask a question regarding the cost of creating a department as we were going through our budget process. Perhaps you can speak to some of those issues.
Yeah, thank you, President Bass, members of the council. So there is no cost associated with this change. It's in effect formalizing what had already existed. What was called the Office of Animal Services had been placed within the city administrator's office, but had operated for all practical purposes as a standalone department with its director participating in staff meetings as every other department head. There were some administrative functions that the central city administrator's office was performing for animal services, but they have assumed all those responsibilities with existing staff. So all this is doing is really making more transparent to the public when they look at the budget book, what the budget of that office is, as opposed to having it essentially buried within the city administrator's office. And it's not a central administrative function that I think makes sense to be in the city administrator's office. So it was for those reasons that we proposed pulling it out of our budget as part of this two-year budget process, but no fiscal impact.
Thank you for that. Councilmember Fife, do you have any further questions?
No, actually, that was clarifying. So thank you.
Thank you. And I believe that's also documented in one of the informational memos from our budget process. Colleagues, any further comments? And seeing none, we have a motion and a second from Gallo and Reed. Madam Clerk, please call the roll on the consent calendar.
On the consent calendar, moved by Councilmember Gallo, seconded by Councilmember Reed. Councilmember Fife.
Aye.
Councilmember Gallo.
Aye.
Councilmember Cobb.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Kaplan.
Aye.
Councilmember Reed.
Aye.
Councilmember Taylor.
Aye.
Pro Tem Tao.
Aye.
And President Bass.
Aye.
The consent calendar passes with a vote of 8 ayes. Thank you.
Thank you. We can move on to our public hearing. And for this item, we will take public comments specifically on this item.
And for item 3.1, a motion, I'm sorry, we need a motion to open and
Second.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, please call the roll to open the public hearing.
Councilmember Fife,
Aye.
Councilmember Dial,
Aye.
Councilmember Cobb,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Kaplan,
Aye.
Councilmember Reed,
Aye.
Councilmember Taylor,
Aye.
Pro Tem Tao,
Aye.
and President Bass.
Aye.
Public hearing is open with a vote of 8 ayes. I will go ahead and read it into record. Item 3.1, adopt the following pieces of legislation: a resolution approving a design review and a major conditional use permit for the development of a recycling facility located at 2308 Wake Avenue by California Waste Solutions, and adopting requisite California Environmental Quality Act findings and conditions of approval, and an ordinance authorizing the city administrator to execute a lease and disposition and development agreement between the city of Oakland and California Waste Solutions for development of a recycling facility at 2308 Wake Avenue with a term of up to 7 years, a conveyance price of $8,268,500, and applicable extension fees of $125,000, $250,000, and $425,000. 2, authorizing the city administrator to execute a 99-year lease between the city and CWS for the city's leasehold interest in the easement granted by Caltrans over adjacent property. 3, waiving the city's local and small business enterprise program as amended on February 16, 2021 and May 4, 2021, and applying the construction jobs policy and operation jobs policy applied to the other projects at the former Oakland Army base, and adopting requisite California Environmental Act quality findings. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's start with our staff report. Is that you, Ms. Lake, who will begin our staff report?
Good afternoon. This is John.
I'm sorry, John. This is Betsy Lake in the city administrator's office, and I was just going to quickly introduce John Mineta, who will be providing the staff report on this matter. And I am pleased that we are in front of you today with a proposed both planning documents as well as real estate documents for the real estate side of this CWS waste facility matter. And with that, John.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Betsy. If I may, I'd like to share my screen.
Go ahead, Mr. Mineta. You should be able to share now.
Okay, great. Thank you. So, good afternoon, council members. John Mineta, city staff, for the former Oakland Army Base project, also known as the Gateway Industrial District project. In summary, staff recommends the city council adopt a resolution approving the planning approvals, CEQA, CUP, conditional use permit, and design review as recommended by the Planning Commission at its June 16, 2021 meeting. An ordinance authorizing a lease and disposition and development agreement with CWS for development of a recycling facility on the former Oakland Army Base and related actions. As background, I'd like to take just a little bit of time for the viewing public if they can see this presentation. There's a slide here next to the there's a photo next to the slide, on the slide, the CWS LDVA background. It's of the North Gateway. So the Oakland Army Base, the former Oakland Army Base, approximately 160 acres. The city has a number of gateway areas. The one that's in the center of the photo is the North Gateway area. You can see that it's immediately adjacent to the East Bay Mud main wastewater treatment facility. It's just essentially north of the Interstate 880 West Grand Avenue corridor. The area that we're talking about is right in the center of it. It's adjacent to Wake Avenue, and it's highlighted in red. So as background, in 2012, the city revised its redevelopment plan for the Oakland Army Base to include relocation of 2 recyclers, including CWS, from the West Oakland neighborhood to the base. In July 2018, the city and CWS executed an exclusive negotiating agreement, an ENA, which was extended through various amendments through, there's an error here on the slide, it's actually to October 2021, to provide the parties additional time to complete LDDA negotiations. In May 2019, CWS applied for a conditional use permit to construct a 170,765 square foot recycling facility. So CWS is relocating CWS's existing recycling uses. They currently operate 2 recycling facilities in West Oakland neighborhood, currently located at 3300 Wood Street and 1819/1820 10th Street. Relocating CWS to the former Oakland Army base allows intensive recycling facilities to move from the West Oakland neighborhood to the industrial zone Gateway Industrial District. Relocating CWS to the North Gateway area of the former Oakland Army base meets a key objective of the community benefits program identified for the base in 2012 per resolution number 83933. The existing CWS West Oakland facilities would be closed when the new facility is fully operational. So the CWS project description, the proposed CWS facility would be 170,765 square feet and would accommodate an administrative office, an observation/education area, a material receiving area, a material recycling and recovery area with processing equipment, a bale storage area, a material shipping area, staff areas, a truck maintenance area with a compressed natural gas refueling compressor, and a dispatch area with parking on the property at the North Gateway area. This property is just adjacent to the main area I was showing you. I can go back up just briefly. I think it's somewhat important to just, if you see here in the slide, you can see that the photo shows a red hashed area that's right in the center, and down and to the right, under the freeway, is a small section of the project. This is property that's owned by Caltrans that the city has a perpetual permanent easement on, and that's what's being proposed as an area for parking. The facility would accommodate recycling only, and it would process up to 850 tons of material a day. CWS conducted public outreach consistent with its project-specific public engagement plan entitled CWS Public Engagement Plan, dated May 2019, including distributing mailers to Oakland residents describing the proposed facility, hosting 2 community meetings focused on community concerns, including community benefits, jobs, and reuse of the current facility, hosting a tour of a state-of-the-art waste management facility in San Carlos, California, sponsoring community events, presenting before local neighborhood organizations, including West Oakland Biz Alert and Oakland Neighbors. CWS also responded directly to feedback from community and neighborhood input, including revising the circulation plan to satisfy its neighbor, East Bay Mud. Planning approvals. Staff and CWS have completed, and at its June 16, 2021 meeting, the Planning Commission unanimously recommended for approval the following actions. Sequent addendum number 2 to the 2002 EIR/2012 addendum. Design review for the proposed CWS facility. Major conditional use permit subject to the findings and conditions of the approval. Subject to the findings and the conditions of approval attached to the staff report as attachment A. CWS's real estate approval. Staff and CWS have negotiated the real estate documents consistent with the term sheet approved by council on June 30, 2020 as follows. A disposition and development agreement, which would transfer ownership and control of the property from the city to CWS, substantially in the form attached to the staff report as attachment B. A lease to CWS for the under freeway Caltrans easement area, substantially in the form attached to the staff report as attachment C. Consolidates the approval process, the full project entitlement package consisting of the planning approvals, which are the addendum, design review, and CUP, as well as the real estate documents, the LDDA, are coming before the City Council for approval. Key terms for the LDDA are the sale of 12.02 acres of city-owned fee property and a lease of 2.36 acres of under freeway property. The total conveyance price of $8,268,500, which exceeds the fair reuse value of $8 million as determined by Kaiser Marston report dated June 18, 2021. CWS pay all escrow fees and closing costs, including without limitation city and other county transfer and possessory interest tax. Property to be accepted by CWS as is in its current condition. Term to include up to 3 one-year extensions to close, meaning commence construction, and up to 4 years after commencement of construction to record documentation that will relinquish and terminate recycling operations on the existing sites in West Oakland. Project to meet or exceed city's green building ordinance. Transfer requires city approval and city shall receive a transfer fee of 35% if in the first five years, 20% of fair market if in years 6 through 10, and 10% of fair market if transferred in the years 11 through 35.
Hey man,
so some additional terms, key terms.
Did you hear? I had to step away because I'm helping mom with something. But did you hear that the item was pulled
including construction jobs policy and operations jobs policies applied to the former Oakland Army base attached
yeah, it was
to the
item
staff
12. I was
report
looking for. I texted
D
Rebecca, but I didn't hear
and
back from her.
attachment E, respectively. As with all other OAB projects, these policies supersede application of the city's local and small local business enterprise program. City's living wage ordinance and equal benefit
Hold on a
ordinance
second.
apply. Commercial reasonable efforts to
go ahead.
enter into a project labor
Can I
agreement.
call you back?
They're to pay an annual fee of
Hello?
0.005, works out to be 6 cents per year, 6 cents annually, to support the West Oakland Jobs Resource Center.
This is he.
Good faith conformance with the applicable sections of the city's Equitable Climate Action Plan, the ECAP. A fair share payment of $375,000 related to CEQA mitigation measures.
Yeah.
And then a payment of a few other related
undeliverable?
costs. And then payment of a one-time fee of $16,000 per acre, or $229,706.
Yeah. Although you know what,
into the West
the
Oakland
reason
Community
why
Fund.
that came up is I've been helping my mom in Fayetteville, Georgia.
So
and
conditions to close,
I keep
prior to
forgetting
closing
to forward
escrow,
my mail, so I can tell you we can just send it right now, make it easy.
Shall have obtained all
I
other
haven't
regulatory
moved.
approvals.
It's just that my
in
mom is
addition to the
86.
city
I'm
permit
still
and
paying
the
rent
city
in Oakland, but I'm here in
approvals
Georgia.
necessary for
Yeah.
development and operation of the project. Provided a completion guarantee and
Yes,
payment
ma'am.
and performance bonds. Provided evidence of required insurance. Provided a loan commencement and or evidence of funding for the project construction.
August 4th, 1962.
CWS shall commence
and
construction within 1
7587.
year of the effective date, subject to up to 3 extensions with extension fees of $125,000, $250,000, and $425,000.
Email ZENNIE.
It's likely
at
that they would begin construction sometime in a year to 2 years from now. Some of the fiscal impact,
510
which have been
517
covered previously, but
7565.
again, $8,268,500 conveyance price, which will be accepted and appropriated to the general purpose fund. The $375,000 OAB fair share program payment, which will be accepted and appropriated to the leasing and utility fund. And then
Right,
the $229,760
Also, I have a problem.
West Oakland Community
Hello?
Fund payment,
Yeah, I'm
which
with
will be
Kaiser,
accepted and
and I have a
appropriated to the
problem
miscellaneous
because
trust fund.
Kaiser
And finally, the
in
annual
Georgia, for some
community
reason,
maintenance fee
when they bill me, they don't use my name.
to support
they
the
use,
West Oakland Jobs Resource Center,
Art
which shall be
Abraham
increased
or
annually
A.
consistent with the
Abraham. They
Consumer
never use,
Price Index,
they
and will be
never
accepted and appropriated
change
into
their
the
file
OAB
documents
leasing
to
utility
reflect
fund.
my name as
Finally,
it appears
Requested action
on my
of
standard
the City Council
Kaiser,
staff recommends
California healthcare account. This has gone on
hopefully you can still hear me.
For almost 2 years now.
Staff recommends
And
that
they
the,
finally sent the bill which I refuse to pay because it's not in my name,
The
because I
resolution
don't know if I
approving,
paid the bill,
the
who
planning
really is
approval.
collecting the money.
Oh, shoot, my
In other words,
apologies,
if they
my
collect
computer
it,
just went
then
blank.
someone
I
asks
don't
for my
have it.
ID, they could easily say, well, this isn't
Well,
you,
I
Mr.
printed
Abraham.
out. Betsy, if you wouldn't mind.
You see what I'm getting at?
That's okay. I think the city clerk read in the actual title with the request, so I think the action's clear and we can open to questions.
Thank you for that presentation. Colleagues, I will open
They're
it
not
up
even,
to
they're showing
our council
A. Abraham,
members
they don't
for
spell out the
any
A.
clarifying questions
And,
or framing comments
never
before
have
we hear from members of
made
the public.
adjustments. I went
And
to
as this is District 3
Kaiser,
Council Member Fife,
Southwood,
you are invited
Medical
to
Center,
comment first if you like.
and they,
Okay,
one lady
seeing
made
no
the
hands
change,
in the
and
queue.
I saw my name
we
for like
do
a
have one
brief
hand. Go
month.
ahead, Vice Mayor Kaplan.
And
Thank you so much, Madam President, and I really want to thank the staff for the report and for the work.
I can't understand
I
why
know
they're
it's
doing
going to
it,
be
and I
a
was going
long
to contact
time.
the FBI,
It's been a
that's
long
why I'm
time
asking for
coming.
you guys to
And
investigate,
just in terms
because
of the history,
you know,
and the
I need a
community
voice out
needs,
here
I would just
somewhere that
note
says,
that
hey,
the
you
West
know, you're
Oakland
not handling
community
Mr. Abraham's
surrounding
account
the
right. I
existing
talked to
site, which
a
is
fellow I know,
surrounded
Kim
by a
Lewandowski, a
residential
friend
neighborhood,
who works for
has
Kaiser.
been
He said, well,
asking
their
for many years
medical
that this use be
records have been
relocated
messed,
to a
screwed up in
more
terms of software
appropriate
for years.
industrial area
But
and
so
further
what?
away
That
from
doesn't mean they can't
residences.
get,
So
you know, a
to
name
those
together.
members of the public
I'm not
who
buying that. You know, I understand you work for
about
Kaiser,
having
he's my friend and all that.
truck-heavy
I'm glad you
uses
told
and the
me that,
industrial
but it
uses
doesn't
adjacent
help me,
to residential
right?
uses.
I don't mean to sound like I'm yelling
This
at you, I'm
action
sorry.
today
It's
is
just
actually what would enable the relocation that would in fact allow that more compatible use, that there would not be this type of use anymore in that residential area, and that it would be relocated to an area that is more industrial. And so by so doing, we allow both for a newer, more effective and efficient recycling center to be developed, which would allow us to improve our recycling for our community, and also really to improve the lives of the surrounding
But what I
West
don't
Oakland
have,
community that
what's going
surrounds
on
the
is,
existing
as a visiting
facility,
member of Kaiser
and
here,
thus reduce the impacts
when it comes
on
to the bills that
adjacent
Kaiser,
community.
Georgia sends me
And
under a
so,
medical record number
I
they
do, of course,
gave
want to
me,
also respect if the
they
council
do
member
not
of the
use my
district
real
has
name.
any specific comments or questions.
Yeah.
And if not, I would be prepared to move the closing of the public hearing
I
and the
have.
approval of the item.
I just, what I need to do is reach the CEO or somebody. I need somebody to investigate if fraud is going on. I need somebody to say,
hearing
hey,
public comment on this
we
public
have a
hearing. So members of the
representative
public,
of
if you would wish
California
to
who's
comment
visiting,
on this item,
who's a visiting
please
member
go
of
ahead and
Kaiser in
raise your
Georgia,
hand or press
and it
star
looks like
9 if you are
there's
on
the
the
appearance of
phone.
fraud that
You'll
Mr.
have
Abraham
up
is
to 2
concerned about.
minutes,
Can
and
you
we'll
follow up
keep
on
the queue
this?
open
In other words, if
until
it's just me
4:01.
yelling, as it has been for 2 years, I don't get any help. I've taken this up with Kaiser here 5 times. I visited. I mean, what do I have to do?
Okay, we are showing 2 hands at this time. Again,
my next stop is
rising to 3.
I don't know, write a news
You will
report
be
and
given
make
2
sure the
minutes
CEO sees it.
for
I don't,
addressing item 3.1, starting with
because I
Ms.
have a news
Olavala,
company.
then a phone number
But
ending in 9932.
will I
then a
still
user
get
by
any
the name
action?
of
I did
Will
once
Walker.
on
Ms.
a
Olavala,
related
it's
matter,
your
but that was for my
turn. Please
mom, not
unmute and
me.
you can begin.
This has been going on for a long time.
Yes. First, I want to reference the race equity statement that's in the report.
Right, because
in the race equity
and so I don't
statement,
know that there
is no addressing
honoring
of anything that
my
would be
covered
considered
California,
important
my
related to race.
role and
Just
status as a
general,
visiting
generic comments
member of Kaiser,
or statements
which
about
who has
race and
coverage
equity.
in California,
However,
that should be easily
it should be
transportable.
made clear
I thought that was the idea.
the city of local business enterprise
And the
program.
Affordable Care Act is.
Some statement on
And
why that's
see, the reason why I'm pushing this is I also think
when
that
it comes to
in some kind of way out here, they're trying to skip the Affordable Care Act.
Policy. There should be some form of a
and the
effort
Affordable Care Act is a law of the
deal with the
land,
fact that African
and they shouldn't be
Americans
doing that
get very little opportunity
because that should be
to
considered
hired
against the
for
law.
construction jobs. You
I mean, I can't
started working
imagine.
on dealing with that problem.
You know, I mean, how would
but you
anybody else
stopped
feel if
once the
they kept getting
union said
bills
they would
back
not
not in their
provide you
name?
with the data related to
who
is a part of the union by race. You just dropped the ball. We no longer deal with the issue
times
that African Americans are not.
No, it was not. No, nothing like that.
Able to work on these construction jobs.
And my point is, you're trying to make
Just forget
something.
about it.
You're trying to make
Doesn't
sense
matter.
out of something
Like
that
you do all
shouldn't
the
be.
time with
The
black
bottom
people
line
in
is
this
nobody
city.
should have
As it
a
relates
bill
to
given to them
the
that's not in
SIPR
their name.
report. I think what you're saying in the documentation is that SIPR report was
You know, I mean, because then how do I know they're honoring
2012. That's 8 years
my
ago.
health care coverage? I
Have there
don't.
been any significant
My health care
environmental
coverage is in my name.
effects after
And
2012?
that's what they should use.
Is it acceptable just to take a report that is 8 years old? The last thing is the $229,760 West Oakland Community Trust Fund.
All Kaiser.
No understanding of how that money will be spent. When will this project be completed, and what will happen to that land afterwards?
Thank you, Ms. Olabala. The next speaker in the queue is a phone number ending in 9932.
This is going on all the time, especially when I call Atlanta. That's why I think fraud's going on. They say they'll fix it. They never do.
Hello, my name is Nino Parker. I am the homeless black advocate at Lake Merritt, also executive
I've been on the phone. I've been to Southwood here.
I'd like to start off by addressing
they send me the bill for what was my CT scan, and but not in my name. I'm thinking, well, is that actually my coverage?
They're not working, and they have to go home to use the restroom, or they have to use the restroom outside. Is a public safety issue. We should not be spending our
I have to call, or then I have to go to someone at pharmacy and they change the name. They say, well, our computers won't, they don't talk to each other or whatever. But humans talk to each other. All I have to do is write something up and say, I just don't believe what I'm being told, okay? It smells like fraud. I don't believe it. I think it's shady.
Also, I've been given I gave a call to the day labor program. I'm going to see if I can't get in it. What's to stop me from going over and signing up for the day labor program and other homeless people, or is it some kind of private entity? I got the number of some of this workforce, whatever you guys have there. I called and left my information to see if they get back to me. The bike lane should be going all the way up to Berkeley. That the protected bike lanes. You guys are selling yourself short in just whether the lane's there or not. I ride up to Berkeley sometimes because they have great services for the homeless, and that lane should be, it's a safe way to ride a three-wheeler without cars almost hitting you. We need more protected bike lanes because less people can afford to drive. Also, the tennis court on the other side is open. If you want to put a net up there and some people can play tennis, that's fine. I cleaned it myself. So put a net up and some people can come down and play tennis on one half of the court if you'd like. Also, one other big factor we have to get on, and that is the percentage of Black folks in Oakland. It's steadily going down.
Will Walker is our last speaker for 3.1. Please unmute yourself and you may begin.
Thank you, Council, and thank you for hearing my comments previously, and to Kaplan for responding to my earlier comments. I would like to echo my neighbor and mention that there are many residents who are long-standing neighbors here who have had to put up with the operations at the facility at 10th Street and the facility at Wood Street. While they have steadily increased their use of the facilities, if I'm hearing these terms of this deal correctly, it could be 7 years until they are completely out and have to exit the use of the facilities in West Oakland. So that would give them 37 years, 38 years of having worked in a residential neighborhood. I would, obviously all of my neighbors that I speak to are in alignment that we want this to pass, but it seems like if the city council has any chip to play here, accelerating this deal would be in the best interest of this neighborhood. Thank you again. And, I wish the best in concluding this deal. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. That was our last speaker.
Thank you so much to the people who spoke during public comment. I do want to make sure that we have an opportunity to address some of the items that came up during public comment. Before we do that, I do want to call on a council member of the district, Council Member Fife, and then Council Member Gallo. Councilmember Fife.
Thank you, Council President Bass. I do have a couple questions. I think that would possibly go to Mr. Mineta or perhaps the city administrator. I too support the fervor of many residents and constituents of District 3 that want to see this space moved out of the residential area. I was a part of working on the original Army base redevelopment project where this was initially brought up and negotiated. I do, however, want to know the timeline for when the city thinks that we would be able to start this process. Like, what is the exact timeline for closing the deal? Because that starts the clock, if I'm understanding this correctly, on when they will actually break ground. And the reason I'm asking is because a number of constituents also want to utilize that space for a temporary intervention for unsheltered people. And I review the site. I've gone out with city staff, and so I'm trying to get an understanding of will we still be able to utilize that site as was passed in the October 2020 resolution unanimously by the city council to
they gave me
stand
a
up
new
a
member
temporary
ID.
intervention. So if I could get some clarity on the timeline or when we think
member ID
CWS will
number
close, that
accesses
would
a
be really
different
helpful.
name, and this started.
Thank you. To the
Yeah,
staff?
and I don't know why the lady who put it together at the
Ms.
Banks
Lake or Mr.
Road
Mineta,
Kaiser
can you
did
address
that.
that question regarding the
But
timeline?
she did it, and I can't. And I have
think
to go
John's
back to her
going, but
again
he's
and
on
have her
mute.
undone.
John, can you
And the
unmute, or
last
would you
time
like me
that
to
I have
take it?
had it undone, or so I thought somebody else
Hi,
put it back a
John, can you
different
hear me?
way.
Yep.
And I thought, why are they
Okay,
not using my name?
So
It is very
our
odd.
immediate term
And so that's why I have
schedule
not
is
paid
that this item will need
that
to come
bill
back
because I
on
need
July 20th
assurances
for a
that's going to
second
be
reading of the
processed
ordinance.
in my name and not
Shortly after that,
in some other
we
way where
have
somebody
all
can
the
pocket the
documentation
money
ready to be
and
executed
then
by
it's
the
not
city
officially recorded on
and
my medical
CWS,
record because
that
already,
documentation being
due to the
main
fact
component
that
being
they're not
the
using my
lease
name,
disposition and
my
development
medical
agreement.
record in California is not matching
Once
my one
that's
in
put in
Georgia. So you
place,
can look at my medical
and
record in
executed,
California. You have no
CWS
idea
will
I was
launch
out
into
here
a process,
as a visiting member. And yet,
which
I'm a visiting
is
member.
contained and kind of
You see what I'm
outlined
getting at?
in an exhibit to the attachment
Yeah.
to attachment B. It's
I
the
think it's
schedule of
scary.
performance. It's an attachment to the lease disposition and development agreement.
I'm enrolled
and
in,
the
that's a great question.
CWS,
I'm enrolled
our
in
goal
California.
is for CWS to go through a one-year
Again,
process.
as a visiting member, I'm
to
visiting
obtain the
Kaiser.
regulatory
I didn't
necessary.
reapply. In fact, that's
City
what they
building
told me to
permit,
do
and
was
other
to
regulatory
reapply. And I
approvals
thought,
necessary
wait a
for them
minute, they
to
don't have the
construct
Affordable
this
Care Act out
facility.
here. I see what they're trying to do.
Including permits
They're
from
trying to not
LEA,
honor. I'm sorry, go ahead.
the local enforcement agency, and
available in every state.
move through the regulatory process, and then to commence construction within a year. Of course, the regulatory permitting process is subject to other agencies and their timelines and their permitting processes. But again, our staff goal is to, within 1 year, have CWS ready to commence construction.
Right.
They
So I
have
didn't want to do
within
that
the
because
schedule
I haven't,
performance
I didn't
a total
start
of
this with the
36
intention
months to
of
construct.
moving yet.
We're hopeful
it's
that
just touch and
can
go.
be
And
condensed
so I'm
down
just
to
maintaining a foot
approximately
in both
2 years
camps,
of
literally.
construction. And then following the construction, there's a process that they would follow. And that's, again, identified in the schedule of performance that would, let's see here, I've got it here, I think it's item number 24 in the schedule of performance is complete construction. So that's within 30 to 36 months. Once they've completed that, they would submit evidence of their BAA QMD permit to operate within 90 days from the completion of construction.
Yeah, I'm ready.
And then commence operations the earlier of 90 days after completion of construction and issuance of permits, or 6 months after completion of construction.
And their website is
once they started operating, we would then go through a process with them, which is item 27 on the schedule of performance, which is that we would execute termination and relinquishment of rights letters and record notices of termination and relinquishment. And that would be across the two, actually three West Oakland sites. And that would need to be completed within 6 months after they commenced operation.
You're just temporarily out of the state for
So that is the timing again is that they do have through this
No, I appreciate you did. Thanks.
and the negotiated LDDA up to 3 years to obtain the regulatory approval.
Did you need my address
that they
out
need to
here?
receive, and then approximately 4 years to construct the facility, operate it, and then retire their rights on the existing West Oakland site.
Oh,
Let me
okay.
inquire for just a moment, okay?
Thank you for that. Councilmember Fife, other comments or questions?
Okay.
That was clarifying, Council President Bass, and that allows me to picture if we are able to also address the needs of many constituents about having a larger site for temporary interventions for homelessness while we need more permanent solutions. So that is also one of my goals around utilizing that site, as was the previous councils from last year. So thank you. I appreciate the answers.
Thank you. Councilmember Gallo, you're next.
Yes, thank you. And I wanted to first give thanks to California Waste Solutions for their support and their commitment and their willingness to come out once a month here in my neighborhood in the District 5 and help us with the beautification of the district. And so I want to express my gratitude for that. And secondly, had the opportunity to visit the recycling facility at Waste Management and was impressed in terms of not just the handling of the items, the recycling and so forth, but also the job opportunities that were being created. Just being there, seeing the number of employees and seeing graduates from Castlemont High School, Fremont High School was extremely positive to see our people at work. And so my question centered around the timeline. When are we going to get this program going, facility up in place and running, and to make sure that our Oaklanders in West Oakland and throughout have our first priority of the jobs that are being created. But thank you for answering the question on the timeline, and I certainly support this effort. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Gallo. I do want to ask a question that I think will be helpful for us and members of the public. I was also involved with the coalition that worked to pass the community benefits agreement and the jobs policy. It may be helpful to address some of the questions we heard during public comment to speak to the Oakland Army Base Oversight Committee that exists and how they are monitoring compliance with the jobs policies. For example, is there information in terms of the demographics of community members who have access to the construction jobs or the operations jobs, for example? And if staff can also speak to the West Oakland Community Trust Fund, it might be helpful to hear what that fund helps to support. To either Betsy Lake or John Manetta, are you able to speak to either of those items?
Certainly. Betsy, would you like me to answer first, or would you like to?
Go ahead, John.
Okay. I'll start with the last question that you asked, which is the West Oakland Community Fund. So we currently have close to $2 million in community funds in an account. This would add to it that would actually bring us to, we have about 1.7 million. So these funds would bring us to roughly $2 million. We are working on and hope to bring in fall a report and recommendation to council on how to utilize those funds and get them out into the community. And so there's more to come on that front. I think one of the other questions that was asked by, or one of the comments made by the public was the CEQA documentation, and that it does seem to read as if it's an 8-year-old document. It's actually, we are approving as part of this package a 2021 CEQA addendum. And I'll allow Betsy to kind of pick up from there, and then I can answer the other questions regarding jobs.
Okay, I think you've got that. We're working closely with Councilmember Fife's office on the West Oakland Community Fund, how to actually establish that. And it is our highest priority to get that money out of the city's trust account and into the community. So we're working hard on that. With respect to the CEQA document, John is right. We have a up-to-date addendum. That's the CEQA document that updates the 2012 CEQA is our current addendum. So it runs through all of the environmental impacts specific to this project. With respect to the jobs, we do have, as Council President indicated, a particular jobs program that's specific to the Army base that has been applied to other all the other projects on the Army base to date. It does have, it has an oversight committee that runs through and confirms compliance with the construction jobs. We would need to get, and I think John is following up on an information report requested by the CED committee that looks at both the jobs outcomes as well as the monetary amounts that come in off of our Army base program. So that's forthcoming. But you're right, it does, the commission does make sure that the jobs policies are followed both on the construction side and the operations side.
And then if I may, just to supplement that. So attachment D to the staff report is the construction jobs policy, and it builds on the previous construction jobs policies for the Oakland, former Oakland Army base project. At its core, they are a 50% local hire requirement. And then attachment E is the operations jobs policy that CWS would follow. And there is CWS is an ongoing business located in West Oakland. They've shared with us that their current job percentage is greater than 50% Oakland, so greater than 50% local. And there would be a process that the attachment E operations job policy outlines a process that would allow for CWS to transfer, to relocate its existing workforce from West Oakland to the new project site at the former Army base. And then once that occurred, any subsequent new jobs, new openings would then go through a process again with a goal of 50% local hire.
And then the last thing I would add in terms of the concern about the timeline, one of the main guiding principles that staff used in negotiating this was the requirement and desire to relocate CWS from the existing neighborhood to the Gateway Industrial District as quickly as quickly as possible. That said, we are also cognizant of making sure that we do so in a way that we can assure that it happens, meaning that CWS actually can do it. So we need to do it in terms of timeframes that work. On the construction side, if the world were up to the city, we would be able to issue all those permits immediately, but it's not. They have outside permits that they need to get, so we've built in a timeline that incentivizes them to go forward quickly because they need to get their other outside permits. To the extent they complete their application for the outside permits, they are given by a certain timeline, they are given a 1-year extension, then they need to pay for any additional extensions up to the 3 years extensions. But then it's to allow them to get the permits they need to actually build. And then on the construction side, they've provided us with a timeline that 30 to 36 months that staff has reviewed and confirmed is within the realm of expectations.
Thank you so much. And thank you for your work to our staff. Councilmember Fife.
Yes, I just, lastly, on the competing priorities of addressing homelessness with temporary interventions and also the priority of moving CWS out of a residential area, knowing that it's going to take some time and that the crisis of homelessness, particularly in that area, is so pressing. I feel like we can expedite as much as we can the contract moving forward with CWS and have temporary shelter. And I hopefully that will push us to move towards more permanent solutions, more or just quicker, by understanding that CWS will need to take control of that space. So I think it's necessary that we do both, particularly seeing that this fire, as recently shared with us by Michael Hunt, this accidental fire that happened at CWS is just another reason why we need to move those operations out of the area. That said, I do want to make a motion to close the public hearing and to adopt staff recommendations on this item.
A second.
Thank you. So we have a motion and a second. Seeing no further hands up. Thank you again to our staff team and to everyone who's been working many, many years to make this happen. Madam Clerk, you may call the roll.
Thank you. On the motion, moved by Councilmember Fife, second by Councilmember Reed to close the public hearing, and by that same motion, adopting staff's recommendation. Councilmember Fife.
Aye.
Councilmember Gallo.
Aye.
Councilmember Cobb.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Kaplan.
Aye.
Councilmember Reed.
Aye.
Councilmember Taylor.
Aye.
Pro Tem Tao.
Aye.
And President Bass.
Aye.
Through the chair, this is Bijal Patel from the City Attorney's Office. Sorry to interrupt. Is it okay if I speak?
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay. Procedurally, we do need to have a separate motion to adopt the resolution, and that motion has to occur first, and then there would be a separate motion to adopt the ordinance. I apologize.
Through the chair to the city attorney, is that a new process? Because this is what we normally do with public hearings.
Well, because in this particular project, there are CEQA findings that need to be adopted, as well as the actual CUP, and that is the reason why that needs to be adopted first. And so procedurally, that's a separate action than the ordinance. And it is different because normally those actions would have been done at the Planning Commission, but because these two have been bundled together, they're occurring at the City Council level.
So through the chair to the parliamentarian, can she reverse the language of her motion saying, or does she need to specifically say what she's adopting or closing and adopting?
Yes, so normally you would have a separate motion to close the hearing, and then there would be a motion to adopt the resolution, and then a separate motion to adopt the ordinance.
Okay, so I'm asking because normally we do by that same motion adopt the public hearing. So could you let the mover and the seconder know what they need to? You're asking them to close the public hearing and us take a vote on that, and then adopt the resolution. Is that what you're asking?
That's correct.
So two separate motions, Ms. Patel, is that right?
It's three separate motions.
3 separate motions.
Okay, that's what I thought I heard.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Fife, would you like to amend your motion to include those 3 separate motions to close the hearing and then to adopt the resolution and then to adopt the ordinance?
Yes, Madam Chair, I will make a motion to close the public hearing.
And Councilmember Reed, are you still the second?
Yes, I can second on all of them going forward.
Thank you very much. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
On the motion to close the public hearing, Councilmember Fife.
Nay, I'm kidding. Aye.
Councilmember Gallo.
Aye.
Councilmember Cobb. Vice Mayor Kaplan.
Aye.
Councilmember Reed.
Aye.
Councilmember Taylor.
Aye.
Pro Tem Tao.
Aye.
And President Bass.
Aye.
And the public hearing is closed. And on the motion, moved by Councilmember Fife, seconded by Vice Mayor Reed to adopt the resolution. Councilmember Fife.
Aye.
Councilmember Gaio.
Aye.
Councilmember Cobb.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Kaplan.
Aye.
Councilmember Reed.
Aye.
Councilmember Taylor.
Aye.
Pro Tem Tao.
Aye.
And President Bass.
Aye.
3.11 passes with a vote of 8 ayes, and the remaining moved by Fife, seconded by Reed. This would be introduction of the ordinance. Councilmember Fife.
Aye.
Councilmember Gaio.
Aye.
Councilmember Cobb.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Kaplan.
Aye.
Councilmember Reed.
Aye.
Councilmember Taylor.
Aye.
Pro Tem Tao.
Aye.
And President Bass.
Aye.
The ordinance passes on is introduced with a vote of 8 ayes, and final passage will be on July 20th.
Thank you very much. And we can now move on to item number 4.
Sorry, I was muted. Item 4 is an oral report of final decisions made during closed session.
Thank you. Let's hear from the City Attorney's Office. Amadis Sotelo, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Council President Bass. We have one matter to report out. So the name of the action, actually allow me one moment, let me pull this up. This is from the July 1st closed session. The name of the action is Isela Pelta and Zahir Carter Brown by and through his guardian ad litem, Isela Pelta versus City of Oakland, Pacific Bell Telephone Company, and DOEs 1 through 100 inclusive. This is Alameda County Superior Court case number RG20054-037. This matter is listed as item number 1C on the closed session agenda. The council authorized settlement in the amount of $207,500. The case arose out of incidents occurring on September 29th, 2018. In terms of the facts and issues,
Hi, everybody. I'm going to have
approximately
to
10 p.m. on September
release
29th,
this
2018,
version of our live stream
plaintiff Isela Pelta,
because
accompanied by their child plaintiff Zahir Carter Brown,
I
fell while
have
walking on uneven edges
Oakland
of a
Athletics
large
President Dave
pothole
Cabal
on
coming in an hour,
Holiday
and I need
Street
to get
after
ready for
leaving a
that.
funeral repast.
This
Plaintiff
is
Pelta was carrying their
item 4 on
purse
the
and a bag with a
agenda.
bottle when plaintiff
The,
fell and suffered
matter of
severed
the
arteries,
Coliseum is item
tendons, and
12.
nerves. Plaintiff
So
Brown saw the immediate
they may still be
aftermath
talking
of
about it by the
Pelta's
time we
injuries.
wrap up,
Plaintiff has undergone 2 surgeries, but continues to suffer
or
from
they may
serious
not have even gotten
functional
to it,
impairment
considering
of
that
the
is
hand that
a good
affects
8
Pelta's
items
daily
away.
life and ability to
So,
work.
or they may be talking about when we're talking.
Plaintiff
At any rate,
Pelta
I have to
sued
release
seeking
right
damages
now.
for
So
current
subscribe
and
to Zenny
future medical
62 and
expenses
bookmark
in excess of
oaklandnewsnow.com, and keep in
$100,000.
mind that there are a number
Over
of items
$475,000
on
for
the
lost
agenda
wages
that
and future
this
earnings,
live
and
stream
nearly
does cover.
$600,000
For example,
suffering. This settlement will
California
resolve
Waste
all claims in
Solutions
this
at the
matter.
Oakland Army Base
There was a
is
motion made by
one
Councilmember
major
Taylor.
item that
The
was
motion was
discussed
seconded
here,
by Councilmember
along with the
Reed.
presentation.
In terms of the vote,
So,
there were
you won't come away empty.
8 aye votes
We'll see.
by Councilmembers Fife,